Fine slate. What is going on? Um, I'm getting feedback. Let me go out and come back in. Oh, I see. Hello, hello. Okay, it's this one. Leave that one. Okay, I think I fixed it. Okay, all right. Hello, very much so. Hello, hello, everyone. We're gonna have an interesting topic today. Um, Today, we've learned a lot about hoodoo. A lot of us know some things about hoodoo, but hoodoo, too, like I tell people on the Patreon platform, it's like gumbo. There's a lot of good parts in it. And so now we're diving into the meat of hoodoo when it comes to the spiritualism of hoodoo. And one of the things that we just got through talking about was the Lamadamas. And that's very popular. Lamadama is very popular in our culture. But not a lot of people, I haven't heard a lot of people talk about where Lamadama comes from. Okay. We know she's part of our culture. We know our ancestors had an affinity with the spirit of Lamadama. But when you go in and you look at Lamadama, you start to realize Lamadama is from another spiritual system. It's from another spiritual system. And we're getting ready to dive into that on Patreon. She comes from the Puerto Rican magic system, Espiritismo. I hope I pronounced that right. Espiritismo. And so we go into that, we're diving into that, and that lecture drops tomorrow. So I break everything down. There's a book review on the book. Hi 13322 GG Coach T. So we break all that down over there on Patreon. But to find out she was called a spirit uh in Esprit I don't want to get it wrong, Espiritismo. Among that, or just a shorter term, Puerto Rican Magic, because it's been called that, Puerto Rican Magic, in that spiritual system where we find the Lamadamas over there, and then we are getting ready to drop some information about I want to pronounce it wrong, Umbanda. Umbanda. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Umbanda. But we're getting ready to break that down and look at those spiritual systems as well. They're centered around the Orisha, but their practice is a little different. And it doesn't, again, we're able, again, looking at the synchronization and what is going on when this is happening among these different magical religions. And one of the things that I liked about diving into this Puerto Rican magic, or looking into the Lama Damas, what I liked about that is the spiritual system was focused on healing, charity, and love. It kind of reminds you of hoodoo, and the more you look at it, you be like, okay, no wonder this fell up under hoodoo. It's La Madamas, La Madamas, La Madame. In our family, and among the conjuring root workers, she was looked at as kind of like Big Mama too, you know. And when you're looking at the pancake lady, Aunt your mama on there, that is like a representation of La Madama. That's the archetype. That's what you're looking at when you look at Aunt Jemima. Okay, you're looking at a La Madama, and these spirits are fierce. And it's not just one of them. There's several La Madamas to work with. It's not just one. And usually they're in our spiritual court. You probably already got some in there, and you don't even know you have them in there. Okay, but we dive deep into that, looking at that spiritual system and learning how to work with Lama Dama. You know what she like, what she doesn't like, and which Lama Dama is good to work with. Or Lama Dam, yeah, yes, that's what I said. Lama Damas, yes, that's right, Coach T. Or Lama Dam. I've heard Lama Dam before. But yes, we're getting ready to dive in that. Yeah, this is on Patreon. That lecture is going to be dropping tomorrow. It's going to be dropping tomorrow. And so with it comes a book and a book review where I go, deeply into the Puerto Rican magic. And again, these are, and I just love it because it's other spiritual systems that our ancestors used to get the work done. And going down this, they ran into their ancestors. It's something, the more you get into this and you work closer with your ancestors, you start seeing them in these spiritual systems. That is definitely how it's been working for me. This definitely has been working for me, especially when we talked about the saints over there. I think we dropped some information about the saints over there. We go deeply into the saints. Like I said, when you look at the saints, these were people in the community. These were people in the community. Uh, and some of the Catholics did not want to canonize, but because the people in the community was like, no, they were a good person, they did good deeds, they had to canonize a lot of them. And so it's interesting looking at their stories, reading about them, and working with them as well. And one of the popular ones in Hoodoo is Saint Expedite. You'll see him being used as well a lot in Hoodoo. But these other two, and we talked about that already over there. So if you're interested in knowing more about the saints, like, we cover a variety of things over there. We don't just cover just roots, herbs, and all that. We cover the context of your hoodoo. It's a spiritual science. I know what you've seen in other places. They're putting things together and telling you can do this, but really there is more context behind that. There is a preparation for you to be able to do the work, the fasting, the prayer, some type of sacrifice where you can understand the spiritual science of how your ashe works and how to move it in that, in that hoodoo environment. Let me say it like that. That's what comes to my mind right now. So yeah. So we covered that. But the most recent thing that we're getting to now is the Puerto Rican Magic. That drops tomorrow, and then another lecture drops on Umbanda. And so that's a very interesting piece. That's an interesting spiritual system. And it reminds you so much of hoodoo, the way it was put together and how it's still open to what I want to say, being tailored for anyone. So again, it reminds you a lot of hoodoo. So just looking at these spiritual systems as well. Now we've already covered over there. We've already covered uh the Key of Solomon over there. What else we've covered? Um Solomon's the Sword of Solomon. We've covered that over there if there's something. So we've already covered a lot of the Jewish ceremonies and some of their spiritual systems. We have already covered a lot of that over there. So now we're moving on to the other things that were in hoodoo as well. And I know you haven't really heard, a lot of you probably didn't know about a lot of what I'm talking about. Have anybody heard of anything what I'm talking about? Have you heard of Puerto Rican religion, Espiritismo, or have you heard of Umbanda? And it's really popular in Brazil. Umbanda is more of a Afro-Brazilian spiritual practice or religion. Oh, okay, you haven't. So you see a lot of those elements in hoodoo as well, and we covered that. Again, context is everything when you're doing this, and seeing how you can work with the African spiritual systems, because there's ways that you can work with the Orishas. There's ways that you can communicate with the voodoo. You already know. We already can work with voodoo, absolutely. It's no problem with that because voodoo was already in America. So I'm a testament to that. Um, but however, a lot of us, resonate, may want to work with the Orisha or some of those deities, because sometimes when you look at voodoo, sometimes it run into the Orisha. I've seen it do that. When you look at some of the voodoo and deities, it is sometimes, down. You be like, wait a minute, didn't I just see this over here? And so you'll see that sometimes. So again, diving into Abunda, I think I'm pronouncing that right. Um, Diving into that, you start to see a lot of elements of hoodoo in it as well. So again, and it really, again, this is the history of hoodoo. When you start seeing where our ancestors got things from and you see how they used them, you can amplify any work that you got going on, because now you got context. You know how it works. You know how to empower it. You know what ancestors to call on. You know what is, you know, uh, yeah, I'm gonna say it like that. You know what ancestors to call on. Okay, you know what's gonna help you move your magic. What else I wanted to talk about here? And so hoodoo is forever evolving. It's always been like that. That's what I like about it. I will always love it because it's so many components to it, and that you can, whatever spiritual system, again, following your ancestors, you resonate with. Again, you can adopt it in your spiritual practice. Okay, and you'll see that, especially when you learn more about the Lama Damas. Did anyone have any questions about hoodoo? And I know too, we're trying to gain back a lot of the knowledge that we didn't, we feel like we lost or we didn't get. So we're trying to gain back a lot of that knowledge. And over there, I put the puzzles together. I was just on a meet and greet with some subscribers over there, and they were just like, you just, everything is right there where we need it. I'm like, yes. So you don't have to be confused. You're going to get right to where to the things that you want. And if you can't find it, you can always DM me, message me, and I will get it right over there to you. So there's a lot of help, and you put things together quick. The information is there, and we're constantly adding. And these last two, I know I'm really excited about the one with the Puerto Rican Magic, because when I went down that road, I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, my ancestors, this, oh my gosh. Like, but again, this, what happened to us was a global thing. So why wouldn't it be pieces of it everywhere? And so reaching back and grabbing it and putting it where it belonged and honoring where it came from, that's a big deal. So I think you're really gonna enjoy learning about the Lamadamas. I'm really happy about that lecture. And I really had a really good feeling the whole time I was doing the lecture, going through the book, and I was really happy about it. And these are the things that, I know you haven't heard a lot of practitioners talk about it, but here I'm going to, I like to share here because what happens is that we see a lot of things online and it doesn't have no context. Somebody showed you something they did online with a mojo bag or with excuse me, they done showed you what they did online with a mojo bag or a candle, or you seen somebody up here doing some work online and and you think that's the way it go, but it really take, it is context behind it, is a science behind it. There is a certain time to do uh certain things. Oh, another great book I just dropped over there. I didn't even talk about this book in lecture, but this book was written by, what's his name, Harry Hyatt. And this book, and it's like 4 or 5 volumes, because this is like, going through this book, it was so fun going through the stories, because the guy who was recording it, you know he, he really, he really didn't know what was going on. But us that are practitioners, we can see everything that's going on. But that was such a wonderful book, because you get a chance to, that lecture is going to be really, really fun to listen to, because you really get a chance to see some of the work that our ancestors was doing and how powerful their work was. So that's a really good lecture and book that I'm really, really going to be, you really going to enjoy, because it's fun and it's got a lot of gems in it too. So, and I just strapped that. I forgot about that one. That's a oldie but goodie, and it kind of reminds you of Working the Roots. It kind of reminds you of that book. But it's a great lecture, and I think that you would enjoy it if you were over there. There's a lot of gems in there, so that's the real, uh, the authentic hoodoo between those pages, listening to those stories. So I think you would enjoy that lecture. Any questions about hoodoo or any of the things that we have going over there on Patreon? Because well, we've did so much over there, especially when it comes to um, the literature, as far as just comprehending and learning. And we're getting ready to have our collective conjuretier and rituateur are getting ready to have another meeting, and we are, this is going to be a special meeting, so we get to dive deeper about the topics over there and share our thoughts. So that's going to be a fun little interaction between us. There's lots of information, and you get to learn hoodoo from a historical perspective. You don't have to guess how it works. Understand how our ancestors use it. Understand why our ancestors use the almanac. Understand why our ancestors use the Bible, and how the Bible was looked at, and how some of the characters in the Bible was looked at from a conjure point. What are some of the great ways to start hoodoo routine upon awakening in the morning? I would say, start with a Bible scripture. Start with a Psalms. Start with a Psalms, and if you like gospel music, play gospel music. But it's good to start with a song. If you can just do that, that's a good way to get started. If you start with a Psalms, that has helped me, some type of inspirational reading. Because again, this is it's a way of life. And there's certain things, we know we don't have an initiation in hoodoo. It's hard for me to get back into the Bible, but I could try. I don't think it's really required, like you think you have to really get into your Bible, but really understanding the Psalms and the scriptures and what they mean to you. And again, because can't nobody tell you what them scriptures mean. I can't even tell you. You have to find, I can refer you, read a Psalms, but if that doesn't resonate with you and your ancestors and your spirit tell you, your intuition tell you said read something else, then do that. But again, it is good to determine the Psalms for yourself. Again, because if it's resonate with you, that's where your power gonna be. But it's good to start reading them and getting yourself familiar with them to see which ones you would use in certain workings as well. And we kind of dive deeper into the Psalms over there through the secrets of Psalms, because in many of the Psalms, I talked about that a little while ago in one of my videos. There are angels hidden in certain Psalms. It's different spirits in certain Psalms that you can invoke, especially when you know their name. And we kind of go over that over there and how to use that and how our ancestors use it. Hi, Haitian Empress. Hello, hello, hello. And so we go over that. We go over that over there, breaking it down and how to use it because it's rituals. Again, that's the Jewish part of hoodoo. Those are some of the Jewish things that we use because again, we were up in the church, and again, we were trying to synchronize it to our African mystical thinking and our African cosmology, if that makes sense. I hope that made sense. So again, there was a lot of synchronization going on within the Christian church. Um, and you'll find that out once you start looking at some of the material. There's a lot of synchronization going on in there, especially when you start looking at the Bible from hoodoo eyes. Like they looked at Moses like a conjure man, you know. Yeah, they had prophets in there, but the prophets was root workers too. You see what I'm saying? Some of them was conjure men, you know. So they they looked at that Bible from a spirit, a mystical, because it is, because that's why Jewish mysticism is so steeped in the hoodoo, because hoodoo is a what I'm trying to say. It's really mystical. There is a science to it because we do have rituals in there that amplify our work. So there is rituals in there that I recommend. I would recommend because that's gonna help you improve your ashe, and that's gonna help improve your work. So some of the rituals over there, I'm not, you know, it's just no way around it. You'll have to be consistent at rituals. You can't just be going up there doing stuff anytime, any day. You know, can you read someone without tarot? I've done that before. I do it a lot. I do it on accident sometimes. I don't mean to do it, but yeah, it happens. Kamar Nembhard said, "Can I read someone without cards?" Yep, I do it on accident all the time. Don't like doing it, but it happens. When somebody asks me something, I flat out start giving them a reading. But yeah, what was I saying again? I can't remember my thought. What I was saying. Okay, so yes, there's a lot of mysticism going on in hoodoo as well, and you'll see again, like I said, the rituals. There's it's mandatory because working with energies like that take consistency and then building up your chi, and then you're programming your mind for magic. That ritual programs your mind for magic. Just like our ancestors, they subtly programmed our mind for magic. Just like say, don't sweep over my foot, don't sweep over my foot, don't put your purse on the ground. They were unconsciously, again, prepping us, you know, with the magic. They was imbuing us with the magic just by telling us that stuff. So again, once you start doing your ritual, you start programming your subconscious with the magic. You understand me? It's dormant. You got to be consistent at it. And you got to build up that chi. So, be consistent with you ain't gonna get nowhere if you ain't being consistent. And it's gonna take you, you might have to fast. Maybe 5 hours, 6 hours. Maybe you don't need to watch no TV. Maybe you need to keep your mouth shut. All depends on what you need to do, you know. But again, it that like I say, it ain't no initiation over here in hoodoo. But them spirits gonna show let you know when you stuck. If you're not doing what you're supposed to do, ain't nothing gonna move and shake. I need a reading to see if someone have a spell on me. Again, you can DM me your email address and I'll send you out a invoice. Okay, I send you out an invoice and we'll schedule a time. All right. Okay. But yeah. So you know, again, we go looking at it from a mystical point of view, and then when you get into Puerto Rican magic and looking at I'm about to pronounce it wrong, Lord. Espiritismo. I'm just gonna call it spiritualism because I'm gonna get tongue tied every time I say that, but it is a form of spiritualism. Uh, when you look at that, you see so many hoodoo components in there and the way our ancestors viewed their magic. Because again, a lot of those religions have African cosmology in there. And you see that in kind of in the Puerto Rican magic. It's mixed with other stuff, but again, you see that African mysticism in there. And then you start to see some of the ancestral spirits in there, such as the Lamadamas, and they're known more as spirit guides. These are totally different um, spirits, and then knowing how to work with them too, and which Lamadama you're calling on. And then they have the man part of it, and these are called the Congos, which are the men. You can call on them too. Again, these are ancestral spirits as well. That's the way I see them, because again, they came from African diaspora. They were in that, and so that's the way I view them. And like I said, you might have already have some in your court, and diving down there again. This is a part of our spiritual heritage, peeling back some things, especially when you're working with your ancestors and you go down here, you start looking at things, you be like, wow. You start to see, well, my parents or my grandparents, they had some of this in some of their practices. And that's definitely what I found when I dived into Puerto Rican magic and Umbanda, very beautiful religion. And the way it looks now, it definitely looks a lot like hoodoo. Definitely looks a lot like hoodoo. Okay. But Puerto Rican magic, it has more of a system. So does Umbanda, but like I say, it's a survival. It was synchronized out of survival. So, in watching our ancestors synchronize it and be able to communicate, go into voodoo and to go into working with the Orishas from different perspectives, uh, you know, it just shows how creative they was. They made a way. They made a way even when it didn't seem like they were going to be able to do it, especially when I look at Umbanda. Um, because they get criticized. They get criticized a lot for their religion because of the way they communicate with the Orisha. And again, they look at the Orisha from a different perspective, from a magical, mystical perspective. There's nothing wrong with it, but again, you'll have, other people, people criticize hoodoo too, you know, they criticize hoodoo too. So, yep, Puerto Ricans are black. And that's where Lama Dama comes from. She comes from that spiritual system that they created. That's where Lama Dama comes from. And so we dive into the roots of these things and where they come from, and uh understanding how our ancestors adopted these spiritual systems as well. And it tells us a lot about ourselves when we learn more about the practice and how it works and how they used it, you know. You'll see a mesh of that. I think is Jewish mysticism. Is it Jewish mysticism? And is it the Umbanda? I think it is some Jewish mysticism in there. Yeah, yeah, it's Jewish mysticism in there. I think they have some saints in there. So there is some mysticism in there. And you'll see the Catholic Church, to me, the more I look at that Catholic Church, and I have to keep asking myself, where did y'all get y'all religion? Because our ancestors know there's some in there. Where y'all get that from? Because our ancestors, they just took that and was just like, oh, y'all, okay, we know what to do with this because this look just like something that we already got. So we just gonna synchronize this to what we already got and keep what we got alive. So again, looking at that, and you see that go on a lot. These I don't I'm trying not to, these African diaspora spiritual systems kind of morph out of Catholicism in different communities, trying to keep their culture alive and their spiritual practices. So you see that go on, especially in Catholicism, and these people were able to keep it alive and adopt, spiritual rituals and things like that. They still evolve the spiritual practice. And it's just, I think it's wonderful to know and to find out about it, and just really understand why it's in our why is it in hoodoo? Because we see it, but not a lot of people talk about why it's in hoodoo and where it comes from. And that's very important. We need to know. Yes, we learn about African cosmology. Yes, we know it's got African roots in there, but it's also got indigenous roots. I think those are the most important thing. And when I see it morph like that and being synchronized, our ancestors was really trying to preserve its organic roots. Even if it looked different, they were still trying to preserve the organic roots of it. And so I think that's very beautiful, and that's what I like about hoodoo, is that we can look at those things, bring them in, um, adopt them in our practice or not. Again, it's just you may not even want to do, look at any of this or adopt this in your practice, like I tell some of the people over there. But again, a lot of the spiritual systems you may not even want to deal with them. You probably just want to work with your ancestors. That's fine. But again, the material is there in case you want to venture out. As you want to venture out and you want to build up your spiritual court or your spiritual allies, and just keep open your options. But this is the context of the working that a lot of us see going on up here, but we don't understand the spiritual science behind it. And so you get a chance to understand the spiritual science behind hoodoo and how it works, how our ancestors use it. It's a beautiful thing when you really start understanding low magic and high magic. You be like, oh my gosh, they mixed this together and this thing worked just fine, you know. And that's certainly how we break it down over there, to easily help you understand, to follow, um, to heal, to apply it to yourself. We also break down your astrology chart to make it much easier for you so you can see what's going on in your chart too. I offer that service where I break down your natal chart, and you can see what's going on in your chart, and you know what you need to go to work on your spiritual path. The chart don't lie, you know. Um, and like I said, you can DM me for just a basic tarot reader because my readings are, they're healing too. But that chart is your root bag. That's the root to everything. That's your start. That's what you come here for. That's what you come to change. So, getting that birth chart and working it, doing some root work around that really helps you put you on the right path, I think, on your hoodoo journey. You'll know what vibe, what resonates, or what um ancestral patterns or whatever you come to break. But that is a good thing to have on your journey, so you'll know what rituals and things that you need to focus on your hoodoo journey. What kind of healing rituals? Because again, a lot of this starts with you. A lot of this starts with you. And I was talking about that, I think the other day. I was talking about a blockbuster. But anyone have any questions? Anyone have any questions? Because I can just yap, yap, yap. I was having a conversation. I think I just posted something, and I was talking about what Dr. Umar Johnson was talking about with some of the African spiritual systems and his reaction to that. And I talked about my reaction to that, because you just don't see that, Black Americans, over there on Sunday, i- that's the most segregated day in America. Sunday is everybody go to their own church or whatever. And so when we see other people, non-African, non-melanated in those spaces, especially Black Americans, we just like, what, we got mixed churches. America has mixed churches, but for the most part, it's the most segregated day in America over there. And so when we do see them come in our church, we're just like, wait a minute, what you want? Wait a minute. And I think like it's a trauma response. I think it really is a trauma response. And the fact too that, hoodoo was ridiculed, they ridiculed our spiritual practices. And then to see them come into an African spiritual system, that, you know, like I said, at some point we're gonna have to sit down and talk about that, and stop, you know, doing the push and pull conversation, from a religious lens, and just have a conversation about what happened to us, because a lot of us see that and be like, nah, we don't want to do that, because see, and who do clothes too? We over here fighting tooth and nail to keep this clothes, and here you is letting them people over there, and our ancestors over here said don't do that, and you saying over here we do that. So I think it's a conflict too. It's ancestral too, because that's the wisdom our ancestors left with us to keep it closed. That's the wisdom that they gave us. Keep it closed. We keep it closed. So I mean, we followed that wisdom. Um, so I think, like I said, it deserves a conversation, and we really need to, the initiates. and the non-initiates, especially Black Americans need to have a conversation about that. Because I know I said that, and I said I do not really care for his character, Dr. Johnson, Dr. Omar Johnson. I don't care for his character. However, he has a valid point. You know, what is happening here? Because when I first seen it, I was like, what the hell is happening here? We do that over here, I thought this was closed. You keep saying initiated, 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 but oh my gosh, what's happening here? So it was a real shock to me. And so it was refreshing to see somebody else post about it and talk about it. But again, this needs to be a serious conversation. But they go hand in hand. But I want the hoodoo. I was raised Baptist and brought up with hoodoo, but I have trouble returning to Christianity. Oh, that's normal. That's normal. I want the hoodoo. You want the hoodoo? Yeah, but they go hand in hand. Yep. Not necessarily when you start looking at Christianity from a hoodoo lens, you know, you won't see the Christianity hardly anymore. Now, especially when you start understanding ritual and how ritual work. Okay, when you start understanding that, you it'll be different, and then you go on to you start looking at your options. You know, uh, you can work with your ancestors. Uh, your ancestors might lead you to go on and work with another spiritual system or another deity. You know, so it just gets vast as well as you want to grow and you work with your ancestors, but they go hand in hand. So it will grow. You don't have to, it don't have to feel like Christianity. It doesn't have to feel like that. And I think too, when we get to talking about the angels, too, the thing to understand about angels, and this is why I tell people all the time, again, when you're working with angels, y- your mind has got to be open to that, and you have to be willing to sustain some type of positive thought. Okay, because a lot of these energies, and especially angels, they're going to be transmitting ideas and creativity to your mind. That's where inspiration comes from. It comes from that frequency. Okay, that's where that higher knowledge comes from. It comes from that angelic frequency and vibration. And so when you can keep your mind up there, um, you have very good results with working with certain angels. And again, they vibrate on different frequencies. A lot of people, they don't want to work with Gabriel. They want to work with Metatron. Everybody like Metatron. A lot of people like Metatron because Metatron is the rebel angel. He's willing to push the barriers. That's him. He's willing to pave his own way. So again, it's again finding the angel that you resonate with as well. And again, you will see that when you get in there and you start, because we talk about working with angels, and we talk about how to attract them, how to. Hey, Cosan, is there a reference book for your recommended angels? The book that I recommend, and I think I did a book review here on YouTube about it, but it's Angels, Companions, and Magic. Now that book, if you want to work with angels, because I worked with that book for a while, and and we even have it over there in Patreon. I did a full book review on that and showed them all the juicy stuff in the book. But if you have that book, work that book because it will strengthen your rituals. It will. If you can get you some rituals going with them, that is a good beginning to start at. Okay. Again, we go beyond that as well, but that's a good way to get uh your ashe build up, and again getting your mind aligned, because you're going to need that when you go to start conjuring, or you want to do a specific type of work. Again, they putting you in alignment. You need to be able to get on those frequencies and do that certain work and do that shifting, and they help you do that. Angels help. Hi, thank you, Shine. Hello, thank you. They help you do that. Okay. Working with the angels. So working with them first and getting your mind, and they're gonna help you heal, especially when you're working with them with your ancestors. That's really what a lot needs to be going on before you do anything else, is getting fixing your life and healing your life. Your mouth just need to stay closed. You just need to be quiet. You know, just be quiet. You get mad, shut up. Just shut up. Just say, I don't know. I don't know. If you upset, you depressed, go to your altar. That's the best time to go. Don't say, I don't feel good, I don't feel like it. That's the time you need to go. The time you depressed, the time you crying, the kind of time you mad. We need to be consistent at the ancestor altar. We need to be consistent with the rituals and the times that we're going to our altar. I cannot emphasize to you enough about time. We went over there in their hoodoo book, and I don't think this man caught it, who was recording the stories in this hoodoo book. But the ancestor was talking about time and how they was working by the time, and I could see where they were using the almanac to do that. He couldn't see it, but it jumped out at me when I started looking at the time. But time is very, very important when you're doing it and training, discipline yourself, mastering, again, discipline, mastering self. Because the more discipline you can master yourself, the more spiritual authority you gain. You understand me? That's how they go. You can't discipline If you can't discipline yourself and master yourself, you ain't got no authority. You know. Again, you have to be able to master self, those emotions, and that mind. And again, you know, I was talking to some of the subscribers over there in Patreon. Yeah, that's what Kayla said. Kayla said lunar matches was a game changer. Yeah, we can go over into the lunar mansions as well. Um, we break that down too, because there's different energies tied to the mansions of the moon. So we break that down as well. But making sure you can discipline yourself, master yourself. Again, this is only going to strengthen you and give you more authority, spiritual authority in your life. They just go hands in hand. That's why you don't have no initiation hoodoo, because when you go through the motions, you see progress. If you don't put in no time, you don't put in no effort, you ain't gonna see no progress. That's what this is about. Doing the work. And again, this is for your good too. You're training that mind to reach into that magic sphere, because magic do exist. You got to get it in there. And that's why too our ancestors would get up at certain times doing things, because again, it activates that magical mind in the subconscious. you know I heard somebody else talk about it. She talked about when she did her big breakthrough on her shift and really come into her magic. She said, I damn near had to go crazy. I had to go delirious. I had to think delirious to tap into my magic. And you kind of see that too when you go into the Kabbalah. The Kabbalah is another way where you see some of these people that are connecting with these energies in these different spheres. That's basically what Kabbalah is. You're going in there and you're tapping into your subconscious, uh, connecting with these angel in your spheres. The way it was broke down in some of the meditation. Again, a lot of part of this is shamanism. Especially when you look at Kabbalah, you be like, this is shamanism. This is they're practicing shamanism. And the jury's still out on Kabbalah because they try to make it seem like, my thing is, it sounds like shamanism. What were they doing? How were they going under like this? Was some of them using ayahuasca and they not telling us that? Because again, a lot of what they are experiences, or was y'all going that deeply into meditation, sound like shamanic journeys. Okay. That's what it sounded like to me, because I resonate with the moon and I needed the information. Go on in, Kayla. And the void had no idea about the voice. Yes, 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 yes. You get all that over there. See, and Kayla got over there and she found out, she liked that moon mansion. And you will resonate with the moon, and that makes sense because our ancestors were indigenous cultures, and a lot of them went by the moon. That's why that almanac is important too, because they went by, um, you know, the sections of the moon. They would do certain things according to the moon. So you might get over there once you learn the moon sign and start learning more about those energies and those angels associated with the moon. You be like, wait a minute, you know, let me look at this a little closer. But we definitely go over a lot of things over there. You definitely see all your options, and it would definitely amplify your work, give you more options uh, in your workings. Because you probably know a little spells and know this and a little that, but we don't know how does it work? Do you know how it work, baby? You know what all that goes with that goes into that. And this is not I have to say this about hoodoo. This is, I know you seen magic where, I'm not saying it's not possible for magic to work the next day. But again, in some of your hoodoo workings, it might take you 10 days, 14 days. It might take you 13 days, 21 days to get something done. It might take that long. Again, being consistent at your ritual, and because your magic gonna work. If you consistent, it's gonna work. It has to work. It don't have a choice. Because again, you are conditioning um your subconscious mind to activate the magic. And if it's not working, that means we need to heal. We need to go back again. Probably keep doing some work with the angelic work and our ancestors, and doing some shadow work and ancestors work until we move it out, and then go back to it. And you'll see that it's not uncommon. There's a reason why our ancestors had that as a spiritual modality, because it helped. They knew about blocks. That's why they had road openers. That's why they had blockbusters. That's why they had a cut and clear bath, a uncrossing bath, a white bath. That's why they had those baths. All of this goes hand in hand. And once you start, for me, when I start running up on my blocks, running up on my own block, I was like, damn, damn, damn. No wonder the ancestors invented all these damn spiritual baths and candles. We need this shit. It started really clicking with me on, hell, I need to use it on this. We need it more than ever to get to doing what we gonna do. Especially when you think you can do a money working, but then you might have some other blocks going on with you. You got to go back to the table, or you want love in your life, but you still carrying pain and heartache. So you got to go back and start with self love and all that before you even think about attracting some love in your life. So again, this is about doing our own work too, and it's not about just doing a love spell. You know, so it is, about healing you. It's self-healing. It is a modality. And I think the longer you're in the more rooted you get it in your practice, you see that it's about you. I saw one young lady up here. She said she made her sour jar for her neighbor because her neighbor was just like so mean or whatever. And she said in her sour jar, it's amazing how people use this work. I just would never think it would work like that, but it worked for her. But she said she put in a sour jar that she wanted this neighbor to stop being, acting prejudiced or whatever, and that she would be nicer to people. And she just tried to avoid her, but the lady came around and she let it come out. Let it come out. It's like you're just mean. Nobody likes you because you're mean. And she said the lady she walked off for a moment and came back. It was like, you're right. I have been mean. And this has happened to me. And that has happened to me. And I'm going to try to change. She said it shocked her because she wasn't expecting her sour jar to work that fast, you know. So and I just didn't expect the sour jar to work like that because the effect of a sour jar is really to sour somebody's life. you know. So she probably want to rethink that too. But yeah, so she was doing it to fix her life. So again, you'll need it. It's hoodoo is something. It's a way of life, and it is to help you address everyday problems. What you call our ancestors said, give it to God, baby, give it to God. That's exactly what we did. We went right to that altar. We gave it to God. That's how we did it. And so, we did God's work. That's what we call doing, doing God's work. And so, when you get in there and you get rooted in your practice, you'll see all of that. But it's not all about the fancy glitter and all that stuff that you see. There is some discipline. There is some fasting. There is some prayers. Um, there is psalms in there. There are rituals to keep your power in your hoodoo. 'Cause you want to keep your power in your hoodoo. You want to be able to go to that altar that's on fire. You know exactly what to do to get that altar crunk and on fire and start making some intercession. You know how to go ahead and do it. I was heard some creator on here. He said he don't use. He said y'all always trying to get herbs and stuff and do y'all conjure. He said I don't do that. I just use songs. And he started playing these different songs. I said, boy, he ain't never lying. And then, like I said, that music, you could do a lot of conjuring with that music. Like I said, he using what he have, and it worked. He said he don't do nothing but use some music and get the dancing up in there. And that again, he's using the energy from the music, the frequency and the vibration in the music to help shift, to bring in shifts for his magic to happen. You can do that. And you will learn how to do that too, once you know how to fire up your altar and get it going and learn your rituals, get them down pat, knowing how to protect yourself when you're doing your work, you know, how to do your invocations, what you calling, who you gonna call, all of that stuff matters, especially when you get to making, uh, mojo bags and things like that. All of that stuff matters. When you gonna make it? What time you gonna make it? Is your ancestors gonna help you make it? Who gonna help you make that bag? Who gonna help you put some power and ashes in that bag? All of these things, um, are context for doing workings. You gonna do some money work. What day you gonna do that money work? Who you gonna do that money work with? Who gonna help you? Is your ancestors gonna help you? What ritual you gonna do? You know. Again, it's a whole process. Sometimes I'm on an altar. Um, I think I'm gonna be there for a minute, and here I am. Shoot, I've been there 3 or 4 hours. And that's just how, long some rituals go. You look up in that much time, but that's the time that you're needing to invest in your magic to see it manifests. See, this takes time. Even though you ain't got to pay no money, you gonna pay something. It's gonna take your time, and that's the requirement of the magic. Now, if you just doing some flyby stuff, okay, all right, you can do that. You know how long it's gonna work, but you can do that too if you want to. I'm a person like to know how it works, and then I want to make sure it's gonna work every time I do it. Just want to make sure it ain't broke, and I can go back and use it. It's a spiritual system to it. I know the mechanics of it. I know how it work. I know when it's supposed to work. I don't want to be shooting in the dark, you know. And then it's good to know the spiritual history behind hoodoo. Because if you don't understand the components, how can you really respect it? How can you really respect it? And there's so many other components and other gems over there that I share um over there to really help you get grounded in your practice. And again, it's one day at a time because it's a way of life. Stripping out your old ways, shifting your energy to a higher frequency. Um, I know it's a way of life, so it takes time because I had somebody was like, "Oh, Miss Penny, I didn't get a chance to do this," and I was like, "Sweetie, it's gonna be there. It's not going nowhere. Nobody's rushing you and telling you you have to have this done by a certain time." The spiritual journey is not like that. I wouldn't expect you if you are looking at that like that. I would be concerned. I would be concerned if you were, trying to run through that fast like that. Take your time. Go at your own pace, because I know uh, these are a lot of moving components over here, especially when we go into Jewish mysticism, and then we go into Cyprian, and that's over there in the conjure part, because we go deeper into that because he was a saint, uh, but he also had he had his own grimoire. Let me say it like that. He had his own grimoire where he had his own spiritual practice um, that he used in there. And so again, we talk about him and how he come up in hoodoo and how our ancestors use Saint Cyprian. Again, we're going to these saints again, use his grimoire in a lot of their working. So we break that down as well. And so, and another thing I discovered looking at these saints, you go into some of these saints, and they had their own spiritual system. Some of them, they had some of their own rituals, the way they did things. I'm like, how is this so? But yeah, you go look at them, and they have their own spiritual systems, and they're also, they got specific ways they like to be contacted as well. And the more you learn about the saints or any deity that you're trying to work with, you better the chances of coming in communication with them, especially when it comes to the saints. I'm gonna say come to the saints and the angels too. Okay, and we talk about what they like, how to set up your table, how to attract them. uh we talk about that over there. We go deeply, into that. There's a lot of information over there on that. Now, when it comes to again understanding the other spiritual systems, because I didn't want to stay on that too long, because our ancestors, they didn't just work with these Christianity spiritual systems, they also work with other spiritual systems. So they work with voodoo too. So we also look at voodoo and look at the American voodoo. Again, we can practice it. Don't need to be initiated. We have American voodoo for us, by us, it's us. Okay. So we have that over there. We talk about those spiritual systems. And don't be surprised when you start learning about these things. that some of these deities, they might even start coming up in your dreams. I'm telling you, they might start showing up at your ritual. You had one member over there. She said she was doing a ritual, and she felt like it was one of her ancestors that showed up. This dog just showed up, black dog. But I have another theory to that too, because Elegba, Papa Legba is associated with dogs, and he show up at rituals too. Again, you'll see some of these voodoo deities, they will show up at your rituals. They will manifest as animals sometimes, or they will manifest as, through humans. I've seen it, I've experienced it happen. And, one of the Patreon subscribers, she talked about how she looked up and it was a black dog by her, and how her ancestors told her to do this ritual by the street, kind of in the crossroad. And who is that? Papa Legba. Who was by her? A black dog. Hey, that homeschooler, how you doing? A black dog. I didn't think about that when she was telling me that, but now that I'm talking about it, now it's coming to mind. But yeah. So you'll see some of the voodoo deities. You'll see your ancestors, some of these spirits that was associated. Again, it's in our bloodline. So sometimes you'll see these archetypes come up and they will manifest themselves. I've shared that with you here with Papa Legba. Like he will show up, he showed up in dreams. But I've had angels that show up in dreams too. Cause honey, if you working with an angel real tough, honey, cause I didn't been working with them tough. And been like and too, I talk about techniques on how to get yourself to dream. I think I shared that here. uh but if you're doing the material and doing the work and on that altar work and you asking them to show up, again, they have to show up. They have to show up, and they will show up in dreams. I have angels to show up in dreams, but I've seen Elegba. One thing about I've seen with the ancestors, and especially the African spiritual systems with voodoo, they start to manifest, they immerse themselves in your reality. You'll start to see them, you'll start living in the reality. It's weird. It's almost kind of weird because you be like, is this real? Is this real? Is am I really seeing what I'm seeing? Yeah, you really seeing what you're seeing. That's really happening. You know, I had to share that with y'all. I posted a video here that happening to me, and it happens, often. I know with him, he always Papa Legba always showing up. And I was just doing some deep dive research onto him, and they was talking about the people that's attracted to him, his children. And they talked about how some of the characteristics of his children. I was like, oh my God, all of that is me. I was like, that is me. But see, I didn't choose him. My ancestors told me to go to him. My ancestors told me to work with him because he was not on my mind like that. He is the one who showed up at my first ritual. So, he's just been around, you know. He's just been around. And so I've just accepted it now. When I see him, he show up, I see dogs, different colors and stuff like that. He lets me know like he's around. And again, once you start to get immersed in learn about these spiritual systems and learn more about these deities, they might even start showing up in your dreams, or your ancestors may be telling you, hey, we want you to talk to them. Or if you ask your ancestors, I want to work with a deity, what do you suggest? Which deity do I work with? And usually, that they're gonna lead you right. That's gonna be the one that you need to work with. And so that's the safest way to do it over there. And usually if you ask your ancestors something, they're willing to work with you, again. And if you're asking, they probably already know, you know. So you get a chance to really grow over there. And again, I talked about that, I think last week. We just dropped a lot of information on ancestral veneration. So if you are not comfortable with ancestral veneration, we have dropped so much information over there. There is no reason for you to be uncomfortable with ancestral veneration. It is not spooky, woolly. I don't know. I think some people think that, but I'm gonna tell you this. At some point on this journey, if you decide to jump into hoodoo, you have to have an altar. There's just no way. At some point you're gonna have to have one. I don't see a real way around it. If you have one outside, fine. That's beautiful. If you can have one outside, because you can really get lit out there. You can really tap in some ancestral spirits there. You really can. So, but at some point, you're gonna need an altar. And I think the important thing to remember about it and to think about hoodoo is a form of a shamanic technology. To me, it's like a shamanic magic, a shamanic ancestral. That's how it feels. That's how it looks. And like I said, I like it. I love it. You're always learning something. You're always growing, and you always perfecting your practice. So yeah. Any questions for me about Patreon or any of the things I just talked here about Umbanda or Puerto Rican Magic? Um, any rituals? Nobody got any questions? Hello there, homeschooler. Nobody got any questions? I know that's a big thing for people is ancestors, veneration. If somebody is making it hard, it's not supposed to be. That's the most easiest practice ever because them your folks. Okay. But like I tell everybody, I don't recommend putting recent family members on there until you start healing. And then you have a pure spirits on there. Okay. Pure egungun. Uh, we need to be communicating with the most healthiest ancestors ever. Yeah, winter is too cold to do outside. But I do like doing those fire rituals. Doing the Halloween, I like doing fire rituals with my ancestors. Doing swing, but it's still kind of warm over there in some parts of America. On Halloween. Yes, absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. It's okay. We're probably going to be diving into that soon. We'll probably be diving into and I have comedic spiritual systems. We'll probably dive into that pretty soon. Yeah, because again, hoodoo is full of spirit. It adopts again. It's a survival, mystical, sort of folk magic. Uh, and it is really starting to make sense if you got over there and kind of looked at our material. You'll be able to put it all together. Because over there we put it all together, and you'd be like, "Oh my gosh!" Now it makes so much sense because everything is broken down over there. Everything is broken down, so there is no reason for you to be confused about what does what or how to do what. In fact, we give you tools on how to amplify any of your rituals or whatever. I'm not going to tell you how to do your ritual, but I'm definitely going to give you tools to amplify it, to put some umph in it. Is it a yeah? I fear her so much. I don't think it's anything wrong, and I'm speaking from a hoodoo perspective because hoodoo is a closed practice. But if you're doing that on your own, again, I'm speaking from a hoodoo perspective. So hoodoo is a closed practice. But if that's what you're feeling, Mayad, comedic spiritual system, again, it's still an African spiritual system. So I don't see anything wrong with it. But then you got some people that, again, I'm talking under the umbrella of hoodoo because again, you'll see many spiritual practice in that. And then some of the deities that we have in there, you start to find out that they are ancestral. You will start to, the way that you'll start resonating with it, it will start feeling like your ancestors. And again, um, we go in deep into ancestors because the ancestors is a wide scope. We think ancestors is just family, but no, 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 no. We break that all down. You have all sorts of ancestors. You got ancestors, spiritual ancestors. You got galactic ancestors. It's such a wide scope when we talk about ancestors. That is why I do not recommend people to start putting family members on their altar instead till you start doing healing work, because you might start doing some healing work and find out these people, this is the first person that broke your heart and did, cause you trauma, or you might even have dysfunction going on in the family and not realize what's going on until you start healing. And winter is too cold to do it outside. Actually, I'm gonna ask for guidance. Okay, you gonna ask for guidance, but it's good that get yourself going and get your ritual stuff going, at least to start healing some part of your life, your money problems, your love problem. At least start healing on yourself. That's bad. That's basically what I got real tough in there when it got to my healing, because I'm like, I'm just gonna use this a lot of this to heal myself, because hey. And that's what I started doing, especially when I dived into the shadow work. Okay. So if you're interested in hoodoo and you are a person of color, again, this is a closed practice. It is closed, you know. I'm not gonna argue about that. If you are interested in that, you know, you can join us over there, and I'll, be coming here sharing a little bit about some of the things that we're talking about over there, or lectures over there. And like I said, I just mentioned when I started doing the deep introspection shadow work, I fear her so much. Oh, that you probably want to get you a blue chart drop too. We do. I do those birth charts. You need to have that in your root bag so you'll know what type of work uh you need to focus on, and which spiritual deities that you can work with. And so if you get you a you know, you DM me your email. I think it's $10 for those. It's $10 for and I think that's pretty reasonable. But I can give you the root work that you need to do around that. Okay, to make it a little easier for you if that's something that you're interested in, because you'll have some of those deities show up when it's time to do certain work, and maybe Mayat is the one who's leading you to do that work. You have some of those feminine spirits, depending on what kind of ancestral trauma that's in your chart. I just did a chart for somebody today and the other day, and I've seen some of these spiritual deities come up in some people's spiritual print chart. Okay, so those are options to work with. So she could be showing up for that. Good afternoon, glad to see you. Hey, Marlo Tyson, how you doing, sweetie? It's good to see you. You're welcome. So so you'll have some of them deities that show up like that for different workings, and I talk. You'll get that. I've had some people that have got their blueprint, and it just gives a lot of details about what psalms to read, what root work and conjure is good for you based on your zodiac, and based on what's in your south node, your north node, uh different houses and things like that. It really breaks it down. I really get familiar um when it comes to your chart, and there you go, you got your root bag, what to work with, the root work you got to do, and the healing you need to do to get on get on your life purpose path. And so you'll get all that in the spiritual blueprint chart. Okay. So if that's something you're interested in, that is a service I do provide. And I recommend people, even before you start doing your shadow work, get that blue chart. Get that blue chart, because that blue chart is gonna tell you directly where you need to go based on your native chart. And we look at that and break that all down the hoodoo way. It's gonna tell you exactly where you need to go to start doing your work. Kind of, I think it's a little shortcut. They'll tell you exactly what you need to be doing. And of course, over there we have monthly rituals for each zodiac. Um, that we recommend over there too. So if you're wondering about, a full moon coming up, you're not really sure what kind of work you need to be doing, we post that over there for each zodiac sign. And of course, I usually post it on TikTok. I really go by the elemental signs. But over there on Patreon, you get every zodiac get a breakdown of what type of root work or conjure work they need to be doing on each full moon, each new moon. So you get that over there to a full breakdown. So you get to really keep up with your spiritual hygiene, your spiritual balance, and a lot quality information. Quality over there. I mean, it's quality. Everything's broken down. He's not gonna be confused about it. Especially if you get the ritual tier or the collective conjure tier, because they get lecture and book and breakdown. But if you just learning and you're just taking your time, you don't want to rush, you just want to read through things and gradually learn. The occult study tier is a good one too. There's a lot of literature that goes on over there with that tier. Okay, but if you ready to go into some action, you ready to get it done, get her done. Uh, the ritual and the conjure tier, I do recommend. Okay. Any other questions about Puerto Rican magic? Any questions about Umbanda? Uh, any questions? Maybe I can answer some general questions. And I recommend, maybe you want to look into these practices as well, and you'll see who do in it. Because again, that's lost wisdom and lost knowledge. Not a lot of people talk about it. Um, and again, with me, with me, I'm gonna say with me, I do like working with spirits. You know, I just like, I can't say conjure because I ain't went on that side like that yet. But I know how to go over there. But I like working with spirits. I like different spiritual systems. That's just me. I like those different spiritual systems. They just different spiritual systems resonate with me. You know, I see them, and then I can see a little hoodoo in some of the spiritual systems. Just like I told you when I came here, they had all these altars. They got altars all over Thailand, and then I seen that pot sitting in that and that altar. I was like, oh my gosh, why they look like Ifa? Why is it looking like African spirituality? So I can see some of the African spirituality in some of the religions too. And that's maybe that's just me. I don't know, but I like the different spiritual systems, and I like having the options and finding out about spirits. You know, uh, and just introducing them. Again, I have more friends in the spirit realm than I do in the physical realm. That's just me. Okay. I don't have problems sitting out coffee and talking to them, making friends with them, talking to them, and telling them who I am and asking who they is, and doing research on them and learning more about them. Again, this is learning how to build a relationship and build up your medium skills too. You do it already with your ancestors. That's what working with ancestors is all about, learning how to be a better medium, because they're your first form of mediumship and communication. Do I need to know my time of birth for the energetic chart reading? I would prefer you do. If you could tell me if it was in morning, evening, late at night, late evening, that would really be helpful, beloved. How can I prevent dream attacks better? What's going on in the dream? Who's attacking who? Because again, you can start conditioning your mind to again talking to yourself, programming that subconscious mind during the day. Because I had a friend like that. She said this man was, her dad was coming up in her dreams, but she told herself again, programming yourself, because you can dream what you want to if you program yourself. But if you got a lot of distractions going on, that can really prevent it. That's why when you're on this, on you on a path like this, it's important that you remove as many distractions as possible so your spiritual communication would not be distorted. Okay. But if you can start programming yourself to saying, "Hey, when this thing come up again, I'm gonna do this thing." You start talking to yourself throughout the day, and before you know it, when you start having a dream, you'll become conscious inside the dream, because that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to be active in our dream instead of being passive and letting the attack. We want to be active in the dream. And some point in that dream, you will wake, you'll get active and conscious, be like, get out of my dream. Don't bring yourself over here. Or you can get you a dream catcher, or you can try the hoodoo way, sleep with a Bible up under your pillow. So those are the options I have for you. But again, I would like to take back my power and tell them don't be coming up in my dream like that, because I'm not, hey, don't come up in my dream like that. Again, I don't know all the details. I don't know, what the attack is surrounding. You know, I know for me, what's your take on rainwater? I think you spoke on it before. It just makes me feel so good. Rainwater is really good. You can use that for a variety of things. I like making moon water, sitting water out in the moon to make moon water. You got some people that put water out in the sun. Depending on the water, I like using some of my water in workings, especially if I'm gonna make some Florida water or something like that, and I know I got some rainwater or moon water, especially if it rained during a full moon. I'm gonna get that rain. I'm gonna use that rain in some workings, some type of workings. So if you can catch rain during a full moon, a new moon like that, you wanna use that rain. You can also use storm water to clear things out if that's what you want to do, reset things. It's always something different, but I'm always feeling like I'm in danger and running and hiding. Girl, I don't know what that is. I don't know if that's some type of boo hag or what that is, baby. But honey, you probably need to start saying you some psalms and stuff at night. And honey, start listening, doing some Archangel Michael protection visual meditations. That's what I would get. If you can only do that for 5 minutes, you need to start doing it, honey. And I will be reading Psalms 91 and Psalms 23 and Psalms 27. I sure would. That's me. Is it, that was one of my family's go-tos, Psalms 23, Psalms 27, Psalms 91. I'll get them things popping right before I get to bed. Joe will. And you can also sleep with water up under your bed. You can also sleep with salt up under your bed. Uh, I'm just thinking of remedy. I start seeing when mine's wasn't that severe like that. I just had somebody in my dream I didn't want in there. Or you can buy your get you a dream catcher. But I definitely be putting salt or water up under my bed to catch that thing and saying some songs before I went to bed. I'm telling you now, that Psalms 27 is tough now. It'll get you out of it. It'll get you, it get you right where you need to be. I'm telling you that song, and that Psalms 91 is there's a powerful protection, baby. Because when you get to calling on them archangels like that, baby, because that's what you're doing when you read Psalms 91. You are invoking angels in that Psalms. That's what you're invoking when you read that, baby. You get through with that, baby. You know you protected. You know you protected. But whatever is going on, you probably need to, start doing some prayer work, baby, around that. That start doing some prayer work around that. Yeah, that like I said, Marlo Tyson, that Psalm 91, honey. That's a tough one right there. I keep that. I keep that in the root bag. You hear me? I keeps that. I keeps that. That's going down. If I'm doing any type of work like that, that's gonna be part of the petition, baby. That's gonna be in the petition bag. I'm gonna have that with me. I'm gonna be talking that. You hear me? I'm gonna be talking that. But yeah, that moon water, you could do a lot you could do a lot with rainwater, refresh, clean, uh probably roll openers. It's just so many things that you could do in hoodoo and create, because it's all about creativity and play and using it to create, manifest a better life and healing for yourself. It's just so many ways you can do it. Cause honey, I got some stuff over here going, and I done made up some stuff. I said, boy, I find myself looking like my grandma and my mama them. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm just acting like them. I'm just coming up stuff, rigging stuff up, making stuff work. I said, oh my God, I'm using what I got and it's working. Okay, let's see. Psalms 91. I love that one. It hits different than the rest. It does. What do you think about outing yourself before sleep? What are you saying? What do you mean? What do you think about outing yourself before you sleep? What does that mean? Are you going out of your body? Is that bad sign if something always happening in your protection? Bad. You probably, are you crossing yourself up? Again, we got to go back. Did somebody cross you up? Is you crossing yourself up? What you talking about? What's coming out your mouth? What you thinking? you know Go back to the basics again. Let's start cleansing before we do the protection, and asking for protection during the cleansing. If we've done anything, let's do some repentance work. But sometimes we can be crossing ourselves up and not even knowing it. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, I would anoint myself before I went to sleep. I'd probably give me some good old Van oil. That's what I would be using. Cause that Van oil good. If it's anything that's evil, especially you going to that graveyard, you need to have you some Van oil. Anoint yourself. So yeah, I'd be using me some Van oil or some uncrossing oil or banishing oil. One of those. Gree bag. You said gree bag. Now, like I tell gree bag, mojo bag, Niski's, nation bags, you know. Again, when we're making stuff like that, what do you think about anointing yourself? Okay. Gree bag. Grexter said something about gree bag. Again, it takes thought to put in there. Again, this is about context. What you using it for? What's the intentions with the bag? What kind of energy you're gonna need? You want the bag to have. You know what I'm saying? Uh, Again, putting time in making that bag, making sure you're imbuing it with enough shade to do what you want to do. What you gonna feed the bag? You know what I'm saying? Depending on what you want that bag to do, what you gonna feed the bag. And again, when you make a gree bag, these bags, we have to have weekly rituals with them, because now it's a living spirit. You see, I talked about that. When we working with candles and oil lamps and stuff like that, and we're blessing them and we're praying over them and we're blowing our ashes on it, again, it becomes a living spirit now. It's working for you. You know, I even have some candles sometimes that I feed. I feed during the during the burning. I might put a drop of oil in there and just feed it and keep praying it and working it again because it's a spirit. Even with the oil lamp, you know, depending on what type, if it's an open oil lamp, then I might feed it. I might drop uh a little oil on there, a little what do you call it? Uh, I might put some oil in there. Okay, so again, it's a living being. Once you start seeing it like that, we got to get your mind working magically. Magic, everything is magic. Everything is alive. Getting that subconscious to seeing it like that. Because in this 3D world, they got you thinking it's just this. We got you get you up there in the fourth and fifth, fifth dimension. You got to get your mind working like that. And once your mind is working like that, again, you can tap into your magic. I hope that made sense. Protection mojo, it always hits the quick ground quick. Yeah, protection. That's a pretty that's a pretty easy mojo bag. I can see myself making that pretty easily. I can. I'm thinking in my mind how I would put that together. But again, depending on too, again, when you get these mojo bags and stuff, again, you got to feed it, you got to take care of it, you got to again because it's a part of you now. It's a spirit now. Okay. Just like I heard somebody and we talk about that too when you talk about egregores. Uh, when you're talking about egregores and what is the other one? Servitor, I was going to bring up. Again, you are creating this spirit to work for you. You understand me? Then you got to name your mojo bag. See, that's why I said I had to go into servitor too, because when you look at servitor, again, when you understand these spiritual sciences and what you're doing, your work is going to go a lot better because you got some components to how it works. You understand me? So again, too, the mojo bag becomes alive. So now you got this spirit working for you. Now you got to do rituals with the spirit. You got to keep it empowered and going. You have some people, if you don't take care of your mojo bag, it just die. You'll know because it won't nothing be coming from. It won't have no power. Won't have nothing in it. Won't nothing be jumping with that mojo bag. Okay. And again, constructing it. For me, if I make a mojo bag, it may take me it may take me 2 or 3 weeks to make a mojo bag. Okay. You're welcome. I just, putting thought in to what you're doing. And again, magic is everywhere, just like homeschooler say, she like rainwater. You start to see magic everywhere. I mean, I started to look every time I see like, you know, insects and stuff like that, I be like, how can I use this in magic? Huh, I could do something like this in my magic. Or if I look at a tree and looking at that tree and looking at the leaves in that tree, like, how can I use this in my magic? Or I find an acorn. How can I use this acorn in magic? Well, acorn is good for expansion, growth, good luck, uh, good for drawing wealth. You know, even looking at rice. How can look at, how can I work with this rice? Look again, seeing magic in everything. How can I work with this rice? Oh, rice is good for abundance. It's good for prosperity. You know, again, you start seeing magic in everything and just use what you have on hand. Same thing I talked about with the prosperity rituals you guys are probably getting ready to do tomorrow. You're gonna be blowing cinnamon and all that stuff. One girl said she blows cinnamon. This ain't funny, God. It ain't funny. It ain't funny, not one bit. But the child said she blew cinnamon in her house, and and she ended up getting evicted. I said, "Oh my gosh!" And the other lady said, "Well, that's why you blow it out the door." I said, "Boy," I said, "both of y'all is just going back and forth because y'all ain't got no context to y'all magic. Now you got to sit up here and guess and all this stuff about what you did wrong." I said, "Golly," and this is something y'all done got up off social media and start doing this ritual, but didn't get the context behind it, honey. Sometimes it ain't that. Okay. Sometimes is that we just really don't have a spiritual science behind it and we just doing stuff. And when it don't work, we're frustrated, and you want to blame it on something else, but really say, okay, because you are the biggest component in your magic. If it didn't work, you gotta look at you. Gotta look at you. Gotta look at you, you know. Maybe you should have been doing something else. Maybe you should have been doing a ritual. And I know, and this stuff is working for some people, and it might work for them for a while. Okay, it might work for them for a while, but at some point you gonna have to go back to the drawing board and learn the components because you might hit a block, and then that's when you're gonna have to learn. But that's what usually happens. That's what usually happens. Somebody hit a block and then somebody cursed me. Somebody did something to me. Now ain't nobody did nothing to you. And you need to go over here and do this. That's what's going on with you. That's what's going on with you. This right here, ain't nobody did nothing to you. You just need to get over here and heal and remove this block, and then everything will be all right. If you focus on this and keep your focus on this and stop going over here, then we'll get this done. So it's usually something simple as that. And some people, and sad to say, who was that told me? Was that on here? The lady, yeah, she said she got to read a tarot reader. God, I have to tell these tarot readers on here, gosh, just stop it. I had some get in my box and didn't even know I was a tarot reader. I said, "Oh my gosh, I've been reading tarot for over 20 years, and here you is in my box talking about spirit told you this about me." I said, "Girl, you soliciting to me." But her next lady said she got her tarot reading, and them people told her she was cursed, and to get it off, it's gonna cost, she was like, it was just horrible. So she refused to pay the lady, and no, she said the tarot reading was off, and she refused to pay the lady. And she said when she didn't pay the lady said she was gonna curse her if she didn't get the money by such and such a time. This is gonna happen to her, and blase this and blase that. I said, "Oh my God, this is crazy. This is crazy." So y'all, watch who you're letting read for you, and it looks very inviting with these these storyline readings. What I've really noticed about is some of the readers, they don't even know the real meaning behind the card and the archetypes of the cards. Okay, they have to go with a storyline. And there's really no reason to do that because if you slow down and just read the card, that's all you have to do. You don't have to put no spookism in it. You ain't got to give it no storyline. Only thing you have to do is ask questions and listen to what your client is telling you. That's it. And then tell them what is coming up for you, what spirit is telling you, and relay that back to them when you see the card. That's it. You don't have to make nothing up. And then these collective readings, again, you're wasting your whole energy out there trying to read a whole crowd. You know. And then these people with this collective reading, uh, yeah, y'all taking it because you think you're getting something free. Like I said, there's a lot of vampires out there. A lot of people want to take. Buy yourself a reading. Just buy a reading, because a lot of them have affordable readings. If that's what you're gonna, do, if you really want a reading for you, get a reading. Just get a reading, so you don't have to go into psychosis about this made up storyline that you done applied to your life. You know. It don't make sense. And stop putting love spells on people. Oh my God. Stop it. Stop that. Put a love spell on you. Love you. Do that. Put a love spell on you. I dare you to do that. Put a love spell on yourself. The next person come here and ask me do so. I'm be like, put one on yourself. Cause you need it the most. Cause you trying to make somebody else love you. Love yourself. If you're gonna do it on any damn body, do it on you. I can't emphasize that enough. I get so sick and tired of folks thinking they can control everything. Mm-mm. That ain't even your life. So, you get yourself in a whole bunch of trouble. That stuff turn up into obsession. Somebody get hurt. There's too much diabolical stuff going on with that. If you're gonna do anything, put a love spell on you, on yourself. Okay? If you need love that bad, do it to yourself. You know. That's the best recommendation I can give you about that. And don't be letting anybody read you, speaking all types of ill on don't be very careful. And stop just taking stuff for free. It's- stop taking it. It's good. And a lot of our creators, we come up here and we share a lot of things with you guys. We really, really do. But again, it's even boundaries and limits with that. So it's a lot of us, we're sharing a lot of information with you, giving you lot of knowledge. But then you have people too, they don't want to learn. They want you to give them everything. They want you to sit there and get everything out your mouth instead of you can't get your magic like that. You can't absorb magic like that, because in order to do that, you have to sit down and learn and get a relationship with spirit and yourself. So you're not tricking nobody. You damn sure can't trick spirit. I don't know. If you think you're gonna do that, then you ain't doing no playing with yourself. Some people think they can learn all your magic, just listen. They can learn everything just by listening. No, you have to sit down. It requires you to sit down and know yourself. Get to know you. Okay? You can't get everything from somebody else by looking at somebody else. And most of the times we need to be looking at ourselves. More than we looking at anybody else, we need to be looking in the mirror at ourselves. Pouring into ourselves. So I can't emphasize that enough for you. And whatever work you're gonna be doing, do a reading, ask your ancestors before you do it. That way, or not, you know, do you really need to be doing it or not? Or do you need to be going another direction? Because sometimes we be doing stuff because we want to do it. We ain't got no spiritual guidance. We ain't got no spiritual allies. We just gonna pop out this candle. We gonna just start popping some stuff. We don't know if it's gonna work or not. We just gonna try. We're gonna raw dog this. We're gonna raw dog this all the way out. Okay. We ain't gonna wear no seat belt. We ain't gonna put on no protection. We gonna do nothing. We just gonna get out here and do it. And so a lot of people doing it like that, you know. And it looks like that's the way it worked. I can't blame you, because the way it appear here, it looks like that's how that works. But no, our ancestors was doing work. They was praying, they was fasting, they was doing rituals, they was looking at that almanac. It was a spiritual science. Folks just weren't sitting out here doing any old thing they wanted to do. And sometimes it took them days to get it done, but they did it. Thank you, Goddess T. But they did it. They got it done. Okay, and you can get it done too. You can learn on your own. And a lot of people want a quick thing. I think that's what's happened to us uh this past few decades, that people want it fast. They want it in a hurry. Now, 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 now. And one thing I've learned about this journey, especially with rituals, because you get to a time, I got to a point where I was like, I ain't got time for rituals. And the ancestors like, yes, you absolutely do, because you won't work right without them. You got plenty of time for ritual. Everything else is secondary. Oh, you gonna make time for this. You're gonna do this if this is what you're gonna make time. What do you mean you ain't got time for ritual? You know, and time looks totally different when you start doing that. You stop doing so much rushing, and time begins to work for you. Isn't that something? So when you caught in that survival mode, it seems like time just gets away from you. But when you start healing and you get deep into your spiritual practice, you learn that timing works for you. Even when even when you're doing certain magic and you trying to manifest something, the best thing to remember is the magic is happening now. Don't think about tomorrow when it's going to manifest. It's happening now because you are working the magic. The magic is happening now. And usually when you think of it like that, that's when you see it manifest. But if you're thinking about manifesting it all the time instead of thinking it's all happening now. Again, time begin to work for you. You kind of get out of that construct. That's why you see a lot. I think a lot of people too to get caught in survival mode about coming here uh, on YouTube or on TikTok. Uh, they get caught up in the survival thing because they was like, I gotta make a TikTok. I gotta make a TikTok. It's like a rush thing. And now it feels like social media is kind of running you when they get caught up in it. Some creators, instead of saying, hey, I got time for that, that's gonna be there. I need this break from this. I need this spiritual break from this. I need to rebalance and realign before I get back on this. It's gonna be there. Time is on my side. And you'll start to see that, time will start working for you when you start looking at it differently. But again, it's like the construct got us so caught up in time and performing instead of letting us just let time work for us and stop rushing with this and this and that. You're gonna get it done. I tell people too, if you don't get it done today, guess what? You got something to do tomorrow. If you didn't get it done today, you got something to do tomorrow. If you didn't have no, if you didn't know what you was gonna do tomorrow, now you know what you're gonna do. So I had to learn that about social media, getting off of here, especially the few days that I wasn't on here. Because I have to take a step back. I have to get grounded back into ritual and stay in alignment. Okay, that kind of how it works. And having a spiritual regimen and a diet for yourself as well, staying grounded in your spirit. Because what I see here, too, is that I'm gonna say it from my perspective. I feel like some of the you got some spiritual people on here too that started off die hard spiritualists. They were really grounded in their work, and that's how you identified them. When you saw them, that's what you identified them with. Well, now what I'm seeing here is a lot of them seem to be scrambling because I can't tell if some of them are influencers. Are they salespersons? Uh, are they content creators? You know, I can't tell anymore. You know, because of I think too because this app, social media, kind of puts you in that survival mode to want to be noticed and all of that. But again, it's important that the message, your purpose, don't get lost. The message don't get lost, and that we don't get distracted or get in the competition with social media. Because it'll thrust you in there again. You got purpose. You got a task to be here. That for me, that's how it works for me. That's what I should be focused on. I'm not trying to influence nobody. I'm not trying to sell nobody oven or nobody clothes. I'm not here for that. you know I'm not here to get caught up in any of TikTok shenanigans and then be crying about they ain't paid me. or they didn't cut my money off. And I'm not into those shenanigans. You know what I'm saying? I came here for one purpose, and you know, it's what I'm doing right now. So, and I kind of feel like that some creators, you know, they kind of get lost in the sauce in there and get caught in survival because they're looking at the numbers. Um, and I think too, a lot of them need to ask, why did I get on here? What was my first purpose? What am I known for? Okay, I'm not known for selling clothes. I'm not known for selling makeup. I'm not known. No, I got up here because this was my original platform. And so I just see a lot of them having to morph into so many different other things for whatever reasons. And again, that's survival. That's survival. And I just feel like the message get lost. Your message, your purpose get lost when you do that. And so again, you see them scramble for content. Uh, you see them scramble for content, and I had an issue on here the other day with you know content creator. I guess we can call her that. I don't know, but my experience was that you know okay, I thought your message was to come here and talk about your spiritual practice and to educate them people on this, on your spiritual practice, not to police other people that may be doing something that you don't agree with. So you feel like it's going against your religion, and it just felt so like I'm like saying that that's the same thing Christians do. No, you probably don't approve of that in your religion or whatever. But again, who tasked you as being the correction police? I thought you was supposed to be talking about the right way to do it or to inform people about it, not to go ridicule and talk about people. Again, like, what is your message here? I'm like, I don't know, even know if people see that. Because again, if you rooted in your spiritual practice, you just move on by that and be like, wow, they don't know. Move on. Or that's not the way I see that, you know, move on. But making this a part of your content, you know, th- shouldn't you be talking about your religion since you're trying to defend it so much? It just didn't make any sense to me. It just didn't make any sense to me. And then when somebody kind of call you out on it, or they express how they feel about all of that, then you're upset, and now you want to try to attack them because they have different views that go against your religion. So now you want to ostracize them. I mean, it's just like Christianity. Like, you're not being no, you know what I'm saying? The correction police. That's what I'm saying. Uh, My thing is, like, who are you trying to protect? Are you trying to protect the Orisha, the religion? What are you doing here? Because I thought you were here to educate people about what goes on in your practice, not to police anybody. I mean, if your God is telling you to do that, then how powerful is your God? Come on now. How deeply rooted are you in your practice? Because that shouldn't even bother you. And knowing what you know about people among African diaspora, that shouldn't bother you at all. You should understand really why they're doing that, even if you don't approve. But no, it's again with some of these initiates, it's almost like fanatical Christian thing. You're not initiated. I'm just like, oh my gosh, really? You so uninitiated. Like I said, that Dr. Umar Johnson had a good point with that. But y'all ain't no closed practice though. Anybody and everybody can get up in there. And for me, and it's just my personal views, being a hoodoo practitioner, and knowing my ancestors, they fought tooth and nail to keep this closed, to keep this out the wrong hands. But I don't want you telling me nothing about nobody about nothing about no initiative as long as I'm seeing stuff in there that my ancestors wouldn't dare. I don't come to me with that. Don't come to me talking about no initiation, and I'm seeing that, and I'm being safe in what I'm doing. Leave me alone. Especially what I'm seeing what I'm seeing over there. You letting in and everybody over there talking about initiate, and here I'm over here practicing hoodoo, fighting tooth and nail trying to keep this closed, and you talking about initiate when I'm seeing people over there that don't look like me. You initiating. To me, absolutely not. Absolutely, I would stay right on over here with my ancestors with this hoodoo where I feel safe at, where I know it's closed and folks look like me over here. I'm gonna stay right here. You can scream and this shit all you want to. Again, that's your it's starting to sound like fanatical like Christianity, and I know they're not meaning to sound like that, but that's how you're looking. And if you want to attract somebody to that, especially African among diaspora, don't we again our trauma response is to get away from you, especially when you're trying to force something up on us and you got people up in there that don't look like us and we like what now nobody gonna do it. What are you doing? You know what I'm saying? That's how I look at it. What are you doing? I'm not We need to have a conversation first of why this is happening and why you keep pressing up on me. You would think you would just mind your own business if that's what you feel like. And again, for African diaspora, you telling us we can't practice your religion. We we ain't trying to practice your religion, but when you see us communicating with the Orishas or something, y'all lose y'all mind because you just assume we got to be in your religion to do it, and that's not so. That we have to be in Ifa, that we have to be in Yoruba. Those are your traditions, and what are traditions? Those are your religions. Those are the traditions of your ancestors. Um, Around the Orishas. Those are rituals and things y'all agreed upon communicating with the Orisha. That is your tradition. But there's other spiritual practice. And when we go into spiritual, going to Puerto Rican magic, when we go into Umbanda, you start seeing that, wait a minute, our ancestors looked at this totally different. They weren't having to, you know, they synchronized this and made it this way and it worked for them. But and again, why are you working so hard to keep African diaspora if we don't want to get initiated? Why you're telling us that we can only do it your way? That's black and white thinking. That's what Christianity did to us. Again, this is a religion, and I can't get with that. Again, it's a trauma, I guess, a trauma response for me because I'm like, hell no. You're not gonna do that to me. You just did it to my ancestors. You're not doing it to me. No, you're not. I'll stay right over here with my little hoodoo. I'll be all right. Yes, that's how I feel, Marlo Tyson. So, again, you just get that from the initiative. That's why I said we need to really have a conversation with them and really explain how we feel when how they look, what we experience, because I don't think they understand what we experience when they're doing that. And then to try to orchestrate somebody. You doing the same thing Christians did. And and then I got to think too, is because y'all got them different looking people over there with y'all, that's why y'all act like that, because you acting like them people. You acting just like them people. Is that why you acting like that? And now I don't want to be over there if you're gonna be acting like that. Uh-uh. I sure am say my little self right on over here. That's what I'm gonna do. Because again, we got to have a conversation, and I understood what he was talking about. Dr. Irma Johnson, when he was saying that, the guy that I stitched his video, I understood what he was saying, but again, y'all seeing it from y'all African religion lens. That's like Christianity. Y'all can't see nothing outside that. We the one, who went through this, and then you don't look like us. Your ancestors didn't have to hide their spiritual practices. They could have been unalive because of it. You know what I'm saying? Our ancestors went through that. Your stuff went orchestrated, ridicule. You better not do it, or you're gonna be unalive. Or you even scared to even show them some of the stuff that you do know, because you scared that these folks so crazy they might use what against you, because these folks so low down, some of them, you know so no, we can't wipe that out. To me, leaving that, ignoring that, would be ignoring the wisdom of our ancestors. It's a reason why they kept that closed. And I don't want to hear nothing about no, that's just me. I don't want to hear nothing about no initiation if that stuff ain't closed over there. Don't talk to me. Don't say nothing to me. It's just how I feel about it. And God, I wish I felt different about it, but I think they need to understand that, instead of trying to criticize us when we ain't going. When some of us just ain't going, we don't want to do that. Mm, you know. So I think, again, at some point we're going to end up having a discussion about that, and I hope it's a healthy discussion, and no pointing the fingers or trying to convert somebody and initiate somebody, and just understanding that. But I'm thinking that happened before, because you see these hybrids of these traditions. When you go into Puerto Rican magic, and when you go into Umbanda, you start seeing offspring, because that's really why Umbanda was created, and it focused on charity, it focused on love, it's focused on doing good deeds. I said, what a beautiful religion. You know, that's how they, and again, this is a saint like attributes that they focus on in there. So I was like, they created something beautiful, and then they brought in the Orisha into it. So again, stop saying that. You know, I just can't get. What are you doing? You know, yes, people can of African diaspora can. They don't have to. And that's why Umbanda was created, because they were under those same demands. So they created something that was for the local community, where everybody can join, not just the politician, the attorneys, or high status people. They created a religion that the people could afford to participate in. That's why some of the issues, and that's why a lot, some of them are frowned upon too. Okay. So there was, other practices born out of those traditions, and they work just fine for others. Okay, our ancestors kept it alive. That's why I say I know our ancestors just didn't do this just one way. I know they didn't. They didn't do this just, and they didn't do it just one way. But they won't even let you get that out your mouth before they talking about, you can't talk to Oshun, because this is the only way I can talk to her, and you have to have, yeah, in your religion, because that's how y'all talk to Oshun. Y'all agreed to talk to Oshun like that. you know. Now, this person may not be doing it, going through the ancestors, which I recommend before you do any of that and start working with any deities outside to work with your ancestors. But who made you the spirit police? Did Oshun did Oshun go tell you to do that? Did Oshun tell you to come here and police these people? Is that what they want you to do? Orisha wants you to come here and do that. That's your purpose. That's your life purpose. Was that in your Odu? You know, somebody, I don't know if you're running out of things to do, or you just feel like you have to. It just feels so Christian like. I just don't like when they do it, because it's so unbecoming. I feel like I'm dealing with another. I got to deal with you and the Christians. I got to deal with you and the Christians. African of diaspora that's trying to get back our spiritual heritage, to stand back in our spiritual strength, and y'all see us doing some. eh, You know, I just can't. Like I said, a conversation going to be had, because if I can see this thing kind of blowing out of proportion because of the fanaticalism that's going on here, and some of it is being approved. People are going along with this. That's what's crazy about it, because you got people, they're going along with this type of behavior, and I'm like, what the? But y'all say y'all don't like Christianity, but you participate in the same behavior. Like, make it make sense. Again, a religion jumping out one fry pan into another. You can talk about how beautiful it is, how it worked for you, and all that stuff. That's good for you. Religion is good when it's working for you. But when you trying to put that thing on somebody who don't want it, it gets ugly. You know, I'm not gonna go over there and tell you, stay in your lane. It don't matter what they doing or whatever. What are you doing? What are you doing with, you got initiated, you got all this going on. What are you doing? What are you doing to make this work? Because that's what y'all got to, I have to ask myself too, why did you get initiated? Because most people that's initiated, they go in there because they going through a spiritual crisis. They trying to save themselves. And so the Orisha, calls them into that. Their ancestors call them into that. And that's after they go through that, they're back in alignment. Most initiates and people that have to do that, they don't choose it. They're called into that some sort of way. But now I'm seeing it being a fad. It's for brand. Let me brand myself with this, so I can do this. Let me brand. That's how some of it look. It looks more like branding, looks more like ego. Because if it's, what did you get in for? To heal your life, to fix your life, to share, how it changed your life, how it shows up in your life. You know, why did you get in it? So really focus on that. I think we just take the focus off of some things when we start doing that up here. But like I said, we're gonna have a discussion about it. I can't wait till somebody do a podcast on this. I can't wait. It is coming. Did anybody have any questions about hoodoo? Any of the things I talked about? And like I said, here we're gonna go into the history of it. Talk little bit about those spiritual systems and how they view the Orishas, and how they work with them in those spiritual systems, because it is a little different the way they work with the Orishas in some of these systems. And you will learn that over there. And who knows, your ancestors may lead you to work with those, work with those energies or forces. They may lead you, or they may not. But like I tell everybody, before you reach for anything, ask your ancestors. If your relationship ain't right with your ancestors, don't be trying to befriend no other deity. Don't do that. That's disrespectful. Okay? You don't even know the language of spirit. You don't even know how your ancestors sound. And before you do that, just make sure you got yourself right. And again, over there, we got all that stuff broken down over there for you for ancestor veneration. It is not hard. Ancestor veneration is not hard. If somebody is telling you that it's hard, uh, you know, they're not being too truthful, because it's really easy. Not hard at all. All you got to do is start. Okay. Any questions? The book wisdom will protect you, and discretion will guard you. Yep, that's what Red Rose said. And we break everything down. Like I said over there. Yeah, it's good that you know about the herbs and the colors of candles and all that. But again, the working components of it to bring power and ashe to your work. That's what we focus in over there, because I want your work to work. I want you to understand the spiritual science behind it, and see progress in your work. Okay. And I even go further. I want you to even know, the work you should be doing. So we do a spiritual blue chart over there. So you ain't got to wonder. You can go right into doing the work that you want, that you need to be doing. You ain't got to guess. You can go right into doing your shadow work. Do you recommend any books for beginners? When it comes to hoodoo, is that what you're asking? Uh, Cause hoodoo is I can say ancestral magic is a good book. As far as hoodoo, you can read those books out there. Sticks and Stones is a good book. Um, what other book? I had the Hoodoo Bible Magic. That's a good book. But again, even when you get these books, beloved, what I've noticed about all the books that we get, and they're based on hoodoo, the contextual information is not in there. They're giving you very basic information, like you get here the Psalms to say, the candle to burn, maybe some herbs to put on it. They giving you very basic information. Okay. I haven't seen any detailed information about real hoodoo. Okay. Because it's got so many components, they're only telling you a little bit about the Christian components. And that's why I look Christian. But when we start looking at hoodoo in its true format, you just like, wow, that thing is big. Yeah, it is. It is. So they couldn't put that in the book. They put helpful information in there. Yeah. But again, they left a lot of context out of it. And so once you start looking at it, look at the spirit science, you be like, oh my man, this is how this really works. So again, you really get the components over there when you really understand hoodoo, because again, it is a spiritual science. Even though it's not a religion, it's still a science that has indigenous knowledge in there. It has Jewish mysticism in there. Again, we work with the archangel, angelology. It has angelology in there. Uh, and then it'll go off into other spiritual systems as well. It has a lot of spiritualism in there. Okay. And you'll see it run into voodoo, you know. It'll run into voodoo. And like I said, it ran into the Puerto Rican magic, spiritualism. It got the Lama Damas in there. You see how it just runs. Once you look at it, you be like, wow, this they didn't put that in the book. No, they didn't put it in there because they was trying to sell that book to you. So now you got to learn from the way your ancestors learned it. They just gave you a little piece, but not everything. It's a reason why it's closed, beloved. So they only can write so much in books. But over there on Patreon, I open it. If you are a person of color and you look like me, I open that wide up for you to help it make sense for you and to make it real simple. And I don't give you no whole bunch of spells. You don't need that. You don't need no whole bunch of spells. You don't need that. That's the problem right there because you don't know how that works. You need to go back to the root and find out how it worked before you start doing any type of spell work. So when you go and do any spell work, you feel confident in doing it. Whatever you pick up, I don't care if it's a piece of salt, it's gonna work. I don't care if you gotta use a piece of salt, it's gonna work because you done already you got the ritual and the ashe and all that behind it. So whatever you got gonna work. Okay? I don't care if you just got conjure music. If you got some ritual and you got a relationship built with your ancestors, it's gonna work. You use what you got. So when you understand the components of it and how it works, um, it clears up a lot for you. You don't have to be guessing. And throwing spells at people and telling them how to do certain things it's not it doesn't help because you're gonna be dependent on somebody to teach you something when you can create something yourself. And see, when you learn this, you can create stuff yourself. And you're gonna see it's gonna work. Okay, and that's what we need to be doing. Creating our own stuff, not nobody showing us something. We depending on somebody showing us something. Now your ancestors left all that knowledge right there. You can learn it for yourself. And then accuse somebody of putting something on you or whatever. If you understood it, then you wouldn't have to worry about nobody putting nothing on you. You'll see it before it comes. But none of us don't want to study. Some of us don't want to read. We want somebody to give us something and tell us something and show blowing cinnamon out the door. Like cinnamon is the only herb for prosperity. Well, we got cloves, we got chamomile, we got even vanilla. You can use vanilla for prosperity. Um, allspice. It's so many other herbs that you can use for prosperity. But we wearing the hell out of bay leaf and cinnamon. We wearing them herbs out. Like they the only like they the only herbs on the planet that can create abundance. And there's so many other herbs and curios around here that can help us draw abundance. You know. So again, you can kind of tell who reading and who researching, who doing something and who not, who just running with stuff. You know. And I know I share a little bit about herbs and stuff on there with you guys, and that's to get you to understand the anaism, which we talked about that too. The anaism in hoodoo, because that's a very important component too to hoodoo is anaism. When you understand that everything is alive. So I kind of tell you a little bit about herbs so you can really understand our relationship with them and how they can work with us. Okay. What somebody say? Poppy seed. I heard poppy seeds, depending on which poppy seed. Some of them could be good for money, depending on which poppy seed. I think those like the is that like the now that's different. Depending on the poppy seed, you could use it for money. Mm-hmm. Poppy seed, you can use it for money. See again, it's so many alternative, and it works. Divine Prosperity said it works. She used poppy seeds, and she said it works. So again, you might have one herb. Some herbs don't like everybody. Again, they vibrating at different frequencies. You have some people. You have real some root workers will tell you, I don't like that herb. That herb, I don't know. It just don't feel right. I can't work with that herb that well. You'll have herbs like that. Again, they have different frequencies and different energies that vibrate on. Some of them will vibrate with you. Some will not. A person that work with cinnamon, another person probably be good working with cloves. A good working with herbs, chamomile, five finger grass. You know, that's five finger grass is very popular in hoodoo. In our hoodoo practices, our ancestors kept five finger grass on hand. So a lot of them weren't using cinnamon. Some of this stuff. You know, uh, they were using five finger grass and those things like that. Things they found in nature. Rabbit feet. What else they have? I was telling somebody again, I was talking about, I don't know if I'd share that here. I'm not gonna share that here. I was gonna share that here, but I had to stop myself. I only share that over there. But those curios, like what do you call them? Acorns. All those little things like that. You sleep on that acorn, you just walk by that acorn like it ain't nothing. Even them pine needles. Them pine needles, you can use that stuff in prosperity too. You just walking right past nature, living spirits willing to help you, just walking right past them. You know, looking right past it, and you just think cinnamon is the only thing. No, and then people blowing it out the front door. I wouldn't do that. It's so many ways to do that. Uh, I would lay a line in front of the door. I would make me some potpourri with some cloves and cinnamon and oranges and all that stuff in it, get it burning through the house. Or I make me a floor wash with it. You know, put some cinnamon and cloves and all that stuff. in a mop bucket and kind of wash the walls down with it or spray the door with it. Oh, baby, I just come up with all kind of stuff with it. You understand me? I just would do it so many different ways. So it's not just one way to do your work. And being creative would always think about the most beneficial way it's gonna work for me. How can I keep it drawing? Because I don't want to do this every, a lot of times. I wanted to keep it going to make it simple. I want to keep it drawing. I don't want to blow it out because to me, I'm blowing it away. What am I blowing now? I want to keep it coming. I'm gonna lay that thing down, lay it out. I want you to keep coming. So I'm gonna lay that cinnamon down and like I put a line of salt in front of that door. I'm gonna put a line of a mixture, something that's gonna draw some money. So that's just how I would do it. Again, taking something and running with it instead of giving it thought. Give it thought, people. Give it thought. It's okay to give it thought. Be creative with it. You ain't got to do stuff the same way. Hoodoo look different in different communities, and that's not to say it still was hoodoo, no matter how different it look. Can't nobody talk about your hoodoo. It don't have to look like nobody else. It don't have to make sense to nobody else. The only thing it has to do is make sense to you. That's it. That's the beautiful thing about it. Okay. So is any more questions? Anybody got any questions, any comments? I know I have said a mouthful because like I said, hoodoo is a vast topic, and when you get over there, you will see that with the information provided there. But it's so insightful, and it takes away a lot of the confusion. It gives you all the answers that you wasn't getting in those books that you're getting. It's going to come together over there. You're going to understand the power and the ashe of hoodoo. And I know a lot of people, I have to tell none people that don't look like us. I know it look like your stuff, but it is not. It's not your stuff. It's not. It may look like that, but it's not. Okay. It might look like because the stuff, especially when we go into the indigenous knowledge, that a lot of the reason why it's closed, you see that it's not like it's not the same. It's a sort of a folk magic, but it's not like it's the reason why it's closed. Okay. And I talked about that the other night during our meet and greet. And my subscribers, they was like, really? I was like, yeah, that's what my mama told me. That's what they used to do for pregnancy tests back in the day. And they don't talk about that no more. But apparently that's what they was doing, you know. So and that kind of information I kind of freely share over there. I know I freely share over there on Patreon because a lot of people don't know that information. Okay. All right, you guys. Well, anyone have any more questions? You got questions, observations, any kind of, recommendations you want? And it's not to say that I don't, you can read those hoodoo books, but what I've seen in those hoodoo books, they're going to constantly keep sharing. They start looking verbatim after a while. They regurgitate the same information in some of those hoodoo books. And they're just sharing spells and they're sharing their spells and recipes and magic with you, which is okay. I got a book over there for that. I don't really have to, well, I probably got 2 or 3 books over there like that. But the rest of them is just you learning and putting your own stuff together because I want you to make your own oils, your own conjure oils, you know, your own powders, whatever you want to make. It's time for you to start making your own. So there's things over there to help you start constructing your own stuff. And I know some of us sometimes got to buy something uh, that we can't make. That's fine too. But I say if you're gonna buy anything like that, make sure you know the practitioner You know, make sure you know the practitioner and you like their products. And then when you do get their products, make sure you charge the product yourself as well on your altar and align it with your purpose and your energy before you start using it. Make sure you pray over it or do some sort of ritual over it if you're going to be using other people's conjure products. And there's a lot of good conjure products out there. Some people make some good conjure products. Just making sure that you activate it and align it with the stuff that you're trying to do. But nothing works like your own. Your own is gonna be fire too. Okay. Any questions? No questions for me? Nobody got nothing to share? I mean, I just dropped a lot of stuff on y'all. I just told you about some stuff that about hoodoo history here. You have nothing to say? Wow. Dropped a lot of stuff. Nothing? No one has anything to say. That I was gonna say, I'm just here listening. Well, I've dropped a lot of stuff on you. And again, if these things interest you and you want to learn more about hoodoo, the components, how it works, how did our ancestors use it, uh, how it can empower your life, how it can amplify your spells. You want to put an umph in your spell. You want it to, know that it's going to do what it's going to do. Get over there. Um, get you started. I would recommend a ritual tier and get you started on ritual tiers. And again, this is about consistency, being consistent with your rituals. And this really is gonna show whether you about that work or not. You saying you want to be about it, then this is really, this is really it. This ain't no frivolous thing, and again, this is about consistency and being rooted in your practice. And it is a way of life, and what you'll be doing a lot is keeping your mouth shut. Won't be saying too much of anything, and you'll be careful the way you're saying things. Okay. And I'm certainly proud about myself with the talk and close my mouth type of thing, because it would have been a time, you know I would just let things come out without thought, but now the ancestors be like, you would not, you would save that energy. And so I've learned to do that. It takes practice though. Takes practice and a lot of healing, because we don't know how to keep our mouth shut until we start doing it. You start doing it, you don't know how to keep your mouth shut. Okay, is that okay, you guys? Well, I'm going to close it down. And if you have any questions, you're interested in the blueprint, spiritual blueprint reading, you can DM me, send me your email. I get you out an invoice and I'll get that out to you. Again, that's just $10. If you're interested in our ritual mastery um tiers over there in Patreon, we have a $5 tier, a $10 tier, and a $20 tier. All of them are affordable with quality materials over there. I break everything down. I don't just throw stuff in there and not give you no context or, any type of mentorship. I break everything down on you, down for you. There's no reason for you to be confused. Even when before you go into a book, I'm going to do a book review on it. I'm going to do a presentation on it, so you'll know what to expect in the book and what you need to be looking for to help you on your journey. I break all that down so there's no confusion there. Then it's a lot of literature breaking everything down so you're not confused. And you get monthly, every full moon, new moon, you'll get recommendations for each zodiac sign, get recommendations on the root work, you know, on the root work they should be focused on that full moon or new moon. Okay. And they use the line up perfectly. Again, from the hoodoo perspective. So if that's something that you're interested in, and we're going to be doing more work, we got a meeting coming up July 13th, the ritual and collective conjure. Things are really going to get amped up then because we really get to go into the esoteric knowledge. We really get to talk about the books, rituals, and our experiences, and of course other workshops that they're going to go on over there. And so you probably, again, we're getting deep into things. So if that's something that you're interested in, get over there. All right. Okay, you guys take care. Oh, wait a minute, wait a minute. Wait a minute. The homeschooler said I kind of just came back in, but have you taught on removing people or what books removing people? Again, that's kind of a vague statement. What are you trying to do and what did they do? Again, is it time for a cord cutting? Um, do a cord cutting need to happen over there? Again, removing is such a vague thing, and we have to know what's going on and what's the intention with it. So again, removing people, it could be simply as a cord cutting. Um, I know a lot of people they do freezer spells that seem to be popular for people. Some people do banishing work. All depends on what the person is doing. So really, when you're saying removing what is going on, specifically, I have a neighbor who I know. We're doing witchcraft and are constantly giving me the evil eye. Specifically, I have a neighbor who knows we are doing witchcraft and constantly giving us the evil eye. There's such a I don't know, so much that statement saying so much contradiction in there. You're doing witchcraft, but you think she's giving you the evil eye. Am I understanding that correct? Am I understanding that correctly? Is that what you meant to say? Who know we're doing witchcraft and are constantly giving the evil eye. I mean, in so many ways. If you're doing witchcraft, I would lay salt down. Um, you can do, yeah, I would like lay salt down. You can put this is a trick too. Some people can they can use mirrors. They can use mirrors. Some people use mirrors to do like a reflection back. I've heard of people doing that. You can do a reflection back. And then there's other things that you can do that I cannot share here. Things that you can put down, you know, that I cannot share here. But again, depending on what you trying to do. But I think the most lightest thing that you could do is do some reflection. As people use mirrors for that. You can do some reflection magic or like lay salt down. I'm trying to think of something else. Or some people themselves, they'll just you can put an evil eye out on your porch. They doing the witchcraft and are giving us the evil eye. Okay, so I would do the reflection magic. I would lay down some salt in the yard. I would probably go so far as to use like railroad spikes. Put around my house. Uh, What else would I do? Again, I can't tell you everything here. I would put some, like I said, I'd probably lay some down. Lay some down. Because, me, I like laying a trick. I like laying a trick. So, but I can't tell you that here. But that's definitely what I would do. I would either put an evil eye, because they have the little hangers where you can hang them outside, or I will put a line of salt around my house. Or that is a common thing in hoodoo, is putting down railroad spikes as well for protection. All you want to do, uh, I can't go into too many details here, but that's something light that I can recommend here. Yeah, bring it. Yeah, bring it up over there, and I can give you a few options on what you could do, because there's some mixtures that you can do uh for that, or just start, or some rituals. There's a mixture you can put down, or there's some rituals that you can do to handle that. Yeah. But see, I love laying me a good trick, watching somebody watching. It's just something I like, laying tricks to see how it work, and see people response out of it, because they have no idea what's going on. That's why I like about tricks. You know what I'm saying? I can do it. They have no idea what's going on, and it's working all the time. So that's what I like in that situation. That's probably what I would do. I would probably lay some tricks. But get over there, and I will share with you over there what you could do, some of your options. And if you haven't looked through some of those books, because there are some remedies again to kind of give you a structure and idea of what you can do for yourself. Because I can tell you what to do, but again, it has to resonate with you and make sense to you. And again, information is over there. I think another I don't know which tier you on. Cause I don't want to be saying nothing. I don't know which tier you on, but go through some of those the material over there, and I'm sure it's a working that can give you structure on something that you can create. But I'll just give you, my simple what I would do, and then you just take it from there. But I certainly help you with that. Okay. All right. So if any of you again you're interested, DM me, let me know. And we got a lot going on over there. So get over there.